All stories are dramatized recreations. Named locations are fictionalized. Any resemblance to real persons is coincidental.
Hi, I'm Mia, a 31-year-old manicurist from Nye. Sharing this is hard, but I need to process how my husband Daniel's affair with a colleague shattered our 9-year marriage. It began when I discovered lipstick on his collar, a shade I'd never worn. Then came the late-night texts he dismissed as work emergencies. The final blow was finding a hotel keycard in his gym bag, the same week he'd claimed to be at a conference. For years, I'd shaped perfect French tips for clients while my own life chipped away. That tiny plastic card felt like a knife twisting in our shared history Sunday pancake breakfasts, holding hands through chemo when I got sick, painting the nursery we never used. Now I stare at empty spaces where his things used to be, wondering how vows dissolve faster than acetone on glitter polish. The salon smelled like acetone and artificial peaches, a scent that used to mean calm. That morning, the fumes made my throat burn. Daniel's suitcase still sat by the door when I left, that same suitcase he'd packed for the conference. My fingers trembled as I filed Mrs. Delaney's nails. She chatted about her cruise, oblivious to the earthquake under my skin. Focus on the cuticles, I told myself. Breathe. But my mind replayed yesterday's confrontation, his voice flat, eyes avoiding mine. It meant nothing, Mia. Nothing. 9 years dissolved into nothing. The buffer slipped, grating Mrs. Delaney's knuckle. She yelped. I apologized, pressing a cotton pad to the bead of blood crimson like the lipstick on his collar. During lunch break, I hid in the supply closet. Phone light glared as I reread their texts. Can't wait to see you, sent while he'd kissed my forehead saying, long meeting tonight. The words blurred. My chest caved, a physical collapse against shelves of polished bottles. Ruby Rush, Midnight Temptation, colors I'd painted on brides. Colors she wore. When Elena, my coworker, found me, she didn't ask. Just handed me jasmine tea steam curling like ghosts between us. Bad day? She murmured. I nodded, swallowing the scream lodged in my throat. How do you say my marriage died between nail appointments? Outside, rain sheeted down the salon windows, turning the city into a watercolor graveyard. Mrs. Rosen arrived at 3 p.m., our regular. She slid her wedding band onto the table, diamond glinting. Reshape them square, darling. Jacob says square looks elegant. I gripped her hand, feeling the ridge of her 50-year commitment. My own ring felt like a shackle. The emerald-cut diamond Daniel chose. For my resilient girl, he'd said, now reflected the fluorescent lights in splintered shards. I drowned her nails in glittering burgundy, each stroke mechanical. Resilient. Is that what you call a woman who ignores the cracks? Who polishes the surface while termites eat the foundation? The bottle slipped from my grip, a comet of crimson crush exploding across the tiles. Shards glittered like accusation. I'll pay for it, I whispered. Mrs. Rosen patted my arm. We all drop things, sweetheart. At closing, I scrubbed the stain. It clung, a Rorschach blot of rage and grief. Daniel called. His name pulsed on the screen like a heartbeat. I silenced it. For the first time, I drove past our exit. Parked by the Hudson, watching barges cut through steel gray water, relentless, anonymous. My phone lit with his texts. Where are you? We need to talk. Mia, please. The wind stole my breath as I typed back. So did I. For 9 years. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. It glowed. A tiny funeral pyre. That's when I saw them, my hands. Cuticles ragged, knuckles white on the wheel. Tools of my trade, now foreign. I'd spent a decade perfecting curves, ovals, almonds, coffins, yet failed to shape my own life. The Hudson's current tugged something dark and heavy in my chest. Not hope, not yet, but the first pull of the tide. Sleep never came. I spent the night on Elena's couch, her cat kneading my spine while rain tattooed the fire escape. Dawn bled through the curtains, the same bruised purple as a healing bruise. Daniel's voicemails crowded my phone. You're overreacting. Let's fix this. Where are you staying? I deleted them, each tap a hammer on glass. The salon felt different when I arrived early, too quiet without the hum of dryers or gossip. I restocked cotton balls, lining them up like little soldiers. Order. Control what you can, but my hands betrayed me again during Mrs. Geller's gel extension. The UV lamp's blue glow caught the tremor in my fingers as I sculpted the acrylic. Trouble with the fiancé? She asked, nodding at my bare ring finger. I'd left it on Elena's sink that morning, a silent surrender. No, I lied, smoothing the sticky monomer. Just allergies. She launched into wedding plans, matching his and hers pedicures, while I fought vertigo. Her happiness was a spotlight on my hollowed-out places. At noon, Daniel appeared outside the salon. His reflection warped in the sail. Decal on the door. A funhouse version of the man who'd held my hair back during food poisoning. He mouthed, "Talk to me." I turned away, polishing Mrs. Geller's thumbnail with vicious focus. Swish, swish, swish of the buffer. When I looked up, he was gone. Only his fogged breath lingered on the glass. Elena cornered me by the acetone jugs. "He came by my apartment last night," she whispered. "Said he's worried you'll do something stupid." A laugh clawed up my throat, bitter and sharp. He dismantled us, yet I was the unstable one? The irony smelled like rotting fruit. I poured acetone into a dish, watching it dissolve a cotton pad. That's us, I thought. 9 years erased in chemical seconds. My 3 p.m. canceled, stomach bug. Blessedly alone, I scrubbed the stations. Water sloshed in the basin, murky with glitter and skin cells. Then I saw it. Tangled in the drain filter, a single strand of blonde hair. Not mine. Dark roots showed at the base, hers. Yesterday's client, or proof he brought her here? My knees hit cold tile as I gagged into the sink. The salon door chimed. Mrs. Kowalski, widowed last winter, settled into my chair. Just a trim, Mia, no polish. Her knuckles were swollen, veins like blue rivers under papery skin. She patted my hand. "You're quiet today." When I reached for the clippers, she caught my wrist. "Ah? That kind of hurt?" Her eyes, milky with cataracts, saw too much. "You know what got me through Frank's first affair? I bought the ugliest lamp I could find, put it right on his nightstand. Did it help? No." She chuckled, a dry leaf rustle. But choosing something he hated? That felt like oxygen. After closing, I walked. Past the bodega where Daniel always bought my favorite coconut water, past the theater where we'd seen Casablanca on our 3rd anniversary. The city was a minefield of us. At a thrift store, a neon sign blinked 5 lighting. Inside, dust motes danced under fluorescence. And there it was, a ceramic rooster lamp, one eye cracked, feathers garish orange. Perfect. I carried it home, Elena's home, like a rebellion. Plugged it in her foyer. The bulb flickered, casting crazy beak shadows on the wall. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not joy, not yet, but a crack in the concrete around my heart. Daniel texted as I stared at the rooster's defiant glare. "I'm staying at Mark's. We need space." The lamp's glow pooled on the floor. Space. He'd already taken it, stolen it like a thief in our marriage bed. But the rooster's crooked beak seemed to smirk. "Your move," it taunted. I turned the bulb until it burned steady and bright. The rooster lamp's glare greeted me every morning, a jagged sunrise in Elena's hallway. Its cracked eye dared me to crumble. I didn't. Instead, I washed Daniel's scent from my last sweater, scrubbing until my knuckles cracked. The salon air smelled of disinfectant and fall strawberries today. Normalcy as armor. Mrs. Kowalski returned, shuffling to my station. "The rooster work?" she asked, eyes gleaming like river stones. I showed her a photo. The lamp perched on Elena's bookshelf, beak aimed at a framed wedding photo Daniel had dropped off. He called it passive-aggressive, I admitted. Her laugh was a wheeze. Good. Men only name things when they sting. I filed her nails, short, practical squares. No polish. Frank hated short nails, she mused. Said they looked mannish. Her gaze drifted to my own hands, still bare of rings. "Cut yours off yet?" "My nails?" "Your chains, girl." The clippers felt heavy in my palm. Later, during a lull, I stood before the salon's backroom mirror. My reflection startled me, dark circles under eyes that held too much knowing. My hair, once honey maple, Daniel's phrase, hung limp past my shoulders. I'd grown it for our anniversary because he loved running his hands through it. Now the memory curdled. Elena found me clutching shears. Whoa. Permanent solution to a temporary problem? It's just hair. My voice sounded distant, like someone else's. Okay, she breathed, taking the shears. But we do it proper. She draped a cape around me. The snick-snick of blades near my ear made my pulse jump. Golden strands fell like cut wheat. 4 inches, 6. I watched the woman in the mirror shed a skin she'd outgrown. When Elena spun me around, the collarbones Daniel used to kiss were exposed. The ends brushed my jaw sharp, angled. Mine. Damn, Mia, Elena whispered. You look like a warrior queen. Daniel chose that moment to text. Need my blue suit for a meeting. Can you drop it off? The audacity choked me. His suit, his meeting, probably her perfume lingering on the lapel. Before, I'd have folded it in tissue paper. Now, I stuffed it into a garbage bag, doused it in bergamot-scented disinfectant, calming essence, the label lied, and left it dripping on his brother Mark's doorstep. My reply, outside. Don't forget the rooster. He called instantly. What the hell, Mia? It reeks. Funny, I said, watching a client dip her toes into rose petal water. So do lies. Silence. Then, you've changed. The words hung, sharp as glass. Yes, I thought, survival does that. I ended the call. Mrs. Rosen arrived, gasping at my hair. Divorce cut. I got mine in '89. She squeezed my shoulder, her diamond band digging into my flesh, a reminder of endurance. That night, Elena and I drank cheap wine on her fire escape. The city hummed below, indifferent. Remember his work trips to Philly? I asked, tracing the rim of my glass. He brought back that awful cheesesteak magnet. On the fridge still, smashed, with the rooster's beak. We clinked glasses, a sad toast. Later, alone in the bathtub, I examined the damage calluses from nail files, a burn from monomer spillage, the raw patch on my ring finger. But my reflection held something new, a glint in the eyes that hadn't been there before. Not happiness. Not yet. But a flicker of unbelonging to him. I found Daniel's old key at the bottom of my purse, the one to his office for emergencies. Emergency over. I walked to the East River at midnight. The water swallowed it with a greedy plink. No ceremony, just release. Back at Elena's, the rooster lamp cast long, warped shadows. I saluted it, first the hair, then the suit, now the key. Small amputations. Each cut bled less than the last. Spring arrived with reluctant sunshine. Cherry blossoms littered the sidewalk like confetti after a parade nobody attended. The salon buzzed with pre-wedding appointments. Bridesmaids giggling over mimosas, their hands offered to me like blank canvases. I painted ombre pinks and pearl whites, my own blunt-cut hair tucked behind ears still unused to the breeze on my neck. Daniel's lawyer called. He's requesting the Le Creuset set, the crisp voice stated. I pictured him, her using our wedding gift Dutch oven to make coq au vin. My knuckles whitened around the phone. Tell him he can request all he wants. The rooster lamp stays. Mrs. Kowalski brought seedlings and yogurt cups for your windowsill, honey. Life grows back. I placed them by the cash register, tiny green fists punching toward fluorescent light. That afternoon, a new client arrived. James, 38, graphic designer. Nail biter since college, he admitted, extending hands scattered with half-moon calluses and peeling cuticles. Big presentation tomorrow. Need to look less feral. His self-deprecation disarmed me. As I filed, he asked about the seedlings. Rebirth project? Something like that. Mine's learning guitar, he said. My ex said my hands were useless for anything but spreadsheets. Our eyes met in the magnifying lamp's glow. Recognition flickered, not attraction but the shared language of after. I worked meticulously, hydrating his ragged cuticles, buffing ridges smooth, applying clear strengthener. No polish. You want function, not flair, I observed. Function is flair when you've been ashamed of your hands for 20 years, he replied softly. Rain lashed the windows as he left. A folded 50 tip sat beneath the seedling cups. Thank you for not pitying them. J. Elena nudged me. Cute. Single. Didn't once glance at your cleavage. He saw my hands, I murmured. They felt different today, not just tools, but instruments. That night, I dreamt of Daniel. He stood in our old kitchen, wearing the bergamot-ruined suit, scrambling eggs in the Le Creuset. You kept the wrong bird, he sneered, pointing at the rooster lamp now perched on the stove. I woke gasping, Elena's cat purring on my chest. Dawn bled gray through the curtains. No anger surged, just hollow weariness. At work, Mrs. Delaney returned. "Divorced yet?" she chirped, waving fingers adorned with chipped cruise ship polish. "My third husband? Caught him with the tennis instructor." "I took his vintage Corvette." She winked. "Symbolic gestures, darling." I soaked off her old polished tropical blue, dissolving into murky swirls. Symbolic gestures. The rooster lamp. The dumped suit. The hair. But James's quiet gratitude lingered, deeper than revenge. During lunch, I didn't hide. I walked to the thrift store. Amidst dusty vases and cracked teacups, I found it. A chipped ceramic planter shaped like a triumphant hen. I bought potting soil too. Back at the salon, I transplanted Mrs. Kowalski's seedlings, their roots pale and delicate against the dark earth. Daniel texted, "Lawyer says you're being unreasonable about the cookware." I photographed the hen planter beside the sprouting greens, sunlight catching a crack in its wing. Sent it with no caption. His reply was instant. "Exactly," I thought. "You don't get metaphors anymore." James returned unexpectedly at closing. Raindrops jeweled his glasses. "Nervous habit," he confessed, showing me a freshly torn cuticle. "Presentations in an hour." I sat him down, dabbed antiseptic on the bead of blood crimson again, but not his, not mine. "Hold this," I instructed, pressing a cotton ball to his finger. Our hands brushed. His skin was warm. "Alive. You know," he said as I sealed the tear with liquid bandage, "most people just hand me a Band-Aid." "Band-Aids peel off," I replied. "This stays." He studied my face, really studied it, like he'd studied his redesigned hands days earlier. "It does," he agreed quietly. After he left, I wiped down the empty stations. My reflection in the dark window surprised me, shoulders straighter, the sharp haircut now looking intentional, chosen. Not warrior queen, not yet, but a gardener tending scorched earth. I texted Daniel's lawyer, he can have the le clousset, just keep the rooster. The hen planter sat on the windowsill, seedlings stretching toward streetlights. Tiny, stubborn life in a broken vessel. Outside, the rain stopped. Puddles mirrored neon signs and cherry blossoms. Beauty in the wreckage. The seedlings unfurled their first true leaves, pale green hearts no bigger than nail tips. I misted them at dawn, the spray catching rainbowed light from the salon's neon sign. "Life grows back," Mrs. Kowalski's voice echoed. Daniel's lawyer had collected the Le Creuset yesterday. I placed the Dutch oven on the curb like a coffin, the rooster lamp watching from the window, its cracked eye triumphant. James arrived just as Elena flipped the open sign. "Presentation went well," he announced, holding up his hands. The torn cuticle had healed into a smooth crescent. "Your liquid bandage armor held." I guided him to my chair, noticing how he glanced at the seedlings before his own reflection. "Maintenance?" I asked. "Or another battle?" "Preemptive strike," he admitted. "Date, tonight." The word date hung between us. I focused on buffing his nails. No bitten edges now, just clean lines. "First since?" I ventured. The spreadsheet commenter. He flexed his fingers. 6 months. Feels like cliff diving. I understood. Daniel had texted at 3 a.m. Remember our first date? That dive bar with the terrible wings? Nostalgia as a crowbar. I'd left it unanswered, but the memory stung his laughter as hot sauce dripped down my chin, his thumb wiping it away. Now, I mixed cuticle oil, lavender, and tea tree, and massaged it into James's hands. His knuckles relaxed under my touch. "She's lucky," I said without thinking. "Oh." "Who? The date?" he chuckled. "I'll be sweating through my shirt by appetizers. Then she'll know you're human." Our eyes met in the mirror. Something shifted. A current beneath calm water. Elena coughed pointedly from her station. "Mia, Mrs. Rosen's here early." James stood, pulling cash from his wallet. A photo slipped out, a freckled boy grinning on a swing set. He scrambled for it, cheeks flushed. "My nephew," he mumbled. "I'm his weekend Lego architect. Does he bite his nails too?" "Only when I lose the instructions." I slipped the money back. "On the house. For presentation victory." His protest died as I pressed a sample bottle of strengthener into his palm. For the date nerves. He paused at the door, sunlight haloing his messy hair. Mia, if I survive tonight, coffee tomorrow? The yes was out before I could cage it. Mrs. Rosen settled into my chair, eyeing James's retreating back. New contender? She slid off her diamond band, reshape, reset, resurrect, darling, and dropped it into my palm. The platinum was worn thin, the stone chipped at one corner. Jacob gave me this after his first mistress left. Said it proved his commitment. She snorted. I wear it to remind myself, diamonds crack under pressure too. I filed the edges smooth, my mind replaying James's coffee. Not a date, just coffee. Yet my pulse fluttered like a trapped bird. Daniel called midway through Mrs. Rosen's cuticle work. I let it ring, the vibrations skittering across the polish-stained counter. When voicemail chimed, I played it on speaker. Mia. The house feels empty. Come home. We can fix. Mrs. Rosen slammed her fist down. Delete that gaslighting garbage. The salon froze. Elena's client gaped. I hit erase. The action crisp as a guillotine. Sorry, I whispered. Don't be, Mrs. Rosen growled. My Jacob pulled that for years. Empty house. Like we weren't the ones hollowing it out. She thrust her hand toward me. Paint them blood red, Mia. The color of survived wars. I dipped the brush, crimson fury. The polish flowed like liquid courage. Outside, thunder rumbled, a spring storm brewing. James would be choosing his shirt now, fretting over ties. I pictured Daniel alone in his house, surrounded by the ghosts of us. The rooster lamp's absence a phantom limb. At closing, Elena handed me an umbrella. Go. Your seedlings need stormlight. James's date is coffee tomorrow. She winked. Tonight, survive your own weather. I walked home through the downpour. Rain slicked the streets, washing away cherry blossom confetti. Under a bodega awning, I paused. My phone lit with Daniel's final text. You've moved on, haven't you? Lightning fractured the sky. I typed 3 words, not for him, but for the woman reflected in the rain-puddled glass, short hair dripping, chin lifted, eyes no longer flinching. I'm moving forward. The send button glowed. I stepped back into the storm, umbrella unopened. Let the rain baptize the cracks. Coffee with James wasn't in a dive bar with sticky floors, but a sunlit bookstore cafe smelling of roasted beans and old paper. I arrived early, twisting the sample bottle of strengthener in my pocket like a talisman. He rushed in, damp-haired from another spring shower, apologizing. Subway disaster, a protest march blocked, then stopped. Stared. Your hair, it's grown a bit. Suits you, we ordered. Dark roast for him, chamomile for me, nerves still jangling. He talked about his nephew's disastrous science project. Glitter volcanoes are indoor terrorism, his failed attempt at sourdough. Brick-like, literally, the graphic novel he was illustrating about a time-traveling barista. Not once did he mention her, the spreadsheet critic. Not once did I say Daniel's name. Halfway through, he paused. You're quiet. Listening, I corrected. It's nice not being the shattered one for an hour. He nodded, understanding etched in the crinkles around his eyes. My therapist calls it holding space. Feels like a superpower sometimes. Outside, rain painted the bookstore windows in watery streaks. Daniel texted, saw you walking with someone. Moving fast, aren't we? The words were darts dipped in old poison. James saw my grip tighten on the teacup. Him? I showed him the screen. James didn't flinch. My ex keyed loser into my car door when she saw me with a coworker. Some people can't stand seeing you breathe. I deleted the text, blocking Daniel's number finally, the digital equivalent of syncing his key. To breathing, I said, raising my cup. James clinked his mug against it. And non-vandalized vehicles. Back at the salon, Mrs. Kowalski was waiting, holding a tiny terracotta pot. For your hen, she declared. Inside, a single purple viola bloomed, brave and velvety. They thrive in cracks, she winked. The afternoon passed in a blur of acrylics and gels. Elena cornered me during a lull. Details. Now, coffee, talk. No glitter volcanoes. And, he asked about my seedlings? Elena rolled her eyes. Romance isn't dead, it's just botanically slow. James texted later, a photo of his draft comic panel, a frazzled barista dropping coffee cups that shattered into blooming flowers. Caption, accidental florist. You inspired panel 3. I traced the screen, the delicate petals emerging from ceramic shards. My reply was impulsive. Come see the viola tomorrow? 3 p.m. break. James arrived at 3001 p.m., raindrops clinging to his jacket like liquid sequins. I'd positioned the viola near the window, its purple face turned toward the weak city sun, a tiny beacon on the cluttered reception desk. She's braver than me, I joked, gesturing to the bloom. Survived Elena's overwatering. He crouched, examining the viola with an artist's intensity. Look at that stem curve like a ballet dancer's spine. His fingertip hovered near the soil, not touching. You know, I drew this last night. He pulled a sketchbook from his bag, the viola rendered in soft graphite, roots swirling into musical notes at the bottom of the page. Roots need rhythm too, he murmured. My throat tightened. Daniel never noticed roots, only what bloomed for his convenience. It's beautiful, I managed, tracing the paper's edge. Our fingers brushed, accidental, electric. We both pulled back as Elena called out, Mia, your 3040 canceled sinus infection. Bonus time, James smiled, straightening. Walk me through your seedling army. I led him past stations smelling of acetone and ambition. Basil for pesto, I pointed. Tomatoes for salsa. This spiky one's lavender, Mrs. Petey, so each one misses. Kowalski insists it heals burns. Nail tech hazard? Life hazard, I corrected. He paused at my workstation. My shears lay beside a half-finished set of coffin nails, jet black with silver cracks. Kintsugi nails, he guessed, for a client's divorce party. Broken things mended with gold. Or silver, he noted softly. Stronger than gold, they say. That's when the salon door chimed, wrong, too aggressive. Daniel stood there, hair plastered from rain, eyes scanning the room like a searchlight. He zeroed in on us, on James's hand still hovering near the lavender pot. Mia. My name sounded like an indictment. We need to talk. Now. The air curdled. James stepped back instinctively polite, non-confrontational. Elena materialized beside me, her voice syrupy sweet. Appointments only, sir. Health code. Daniel ignored her. Who's this? He jerked his chin at James. A client, I said, voice miraculously steady. Leaving. I willed James to understand. This isn't your battle. He nodded, gathering his sketchbook. Text me the lavender's progress, he asked, holding my gaze. A lifeline thrown across the wreckage. Always, I promised. As James slipped out, Daniel advanced. Client? Since when do clients bring sketchbooks? Since they're artists. I retreated behind my station, my territory. Buffer, polish bottles, shears laid out like surgical tools. Say what you came for, Daniel. He gripped the back of the empty client chair, knuckles white. You blocked me. Yes. After 9 years, I get silence? Rain dripped from his sleeves onto the tile. I drove past Elena's last night. Saw you laughing on the fire escape. The image gutted me, our old ritual, now shared with others. Laughing isn't a crime, I said, picking up my buffer. Unlike adultery, he flinched. I'm trying to fix this. You won't even. Fix? The word cracked like ice. You broke the vase, Daniel. Don't blame the water for leaking out. I flipped the buffer on low hum, filling the silence. You lost the right to my fire escapes. To my laughter. He stared at my hands, at the silver-cracked nails I wore myself now. You've changed. Funny. I met his eyes. You said that after I dumped your suit in disinfectant, too. Elena reappeared, holding a steaming wax pot like a weapon. Sir, I'll need you to leave before I call security. Nail emergencies only. Daniel's laugh was harsh. Security? This is a nail salon. And that's a pedicure throne. Elena pointed to the nearest chair. Thrones demand respect. He left then, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the viola's pot. The bell jangled, a death knell for whatever ghost of us remained. Outside, he paused under the awning, shoulders slumped. Not penitent. Defeated. Elena touched my arm. You okay? I picked up the viola. Its stem had bent slightly from the slam, a graceful arc toward the window. Look, I whispered. It's reaching for the light anyway. My phone buzzed. James, forgot my umbrella. Worth it to see your lavender. P.S. Thrones do demand respect. Tell Elena I'm Team Waxpot. A laugh bubbled up. Clean, unburdened. Daniel watched through the rain-streaked glass as I smiled at my phone, clutching the little viola like a shield. For the first time, his eyes held no anger. Only dawning, hollow realization. I was no longer his to shatter. I placed the viola back on the sill. Turned to Elena. Let's rescue that basil. I think it's drowning. The morning after Daniel's invasion felt unnervingly calm. Rain still tapped the salon windows, but softer now. A rhythm, not a siege. Elena arrived with double-shot lattes and a scowl. If Loverboy storms in again, I'm using hot wax. Non-therapeutic application. She slammed the cash register open. Men think forgiveness is their birthright. I touched the viola's bent stem, already straightening toward the light. He looked lost yesterday. Good, Elena snapped. Let him stay lost. Mrs. Rosen arrived, her usual diamond band replaced by a slim silver band. Jacob's anniversary gift. Simplicity suits us now, she rolled her eyes. Translation, I'm cheap and guilty, redo my nails, Mia. Rebellious red. As I painted crimson fury onto her filed squares, she studied me. Your ghost came haunting, I hear. He left when Elena threatened him with a pedicure throne. Mrs. Rosen's laugh was sharp. Thrones, that's what they forget. We built those seats. We polished the armor. She flexed her drying nails. My Jacob used to say, you've changed, like it was an insult. Took me decades to hear, you've outgrown me. The word settled deep. Daniel's you've changed wasn't about cruelty. It was an obituary for the woman who'd waited for texts, for honesty, for love to be enough. Jane's texted at noon, Viola update, sketching its heroic recovery for panel 4. Also free tonight, found a dive bar with surprisingly non-terrible wings. My pulse fluttered. Not fear, but anticipation. Yes, I typed. Wings and heroics. The bar was divey, sticky floors. Neon beer signs buzzing like angry hornets, a jukebox playing twangy country. James waved from a corner booth, 2 sweating glasses of water already waiting. Defensive hydration, he grinned. Heat level, mild regret, we ordered wings, garlic parmesan for him, mango habanero for me. Brave, he noted. After Daniel, habaneros feel manageable. He didn't flinch at the name. My ex hated spice, called it performative pain. He ripped a napkin, dabbing sauce off his chin. Some people fear anything that burns clean. The wings arrived, mine glistening orange-red. First bite, sweet, then fire blooming across my tongue. Oh, I gasped, reaching for water. That's not mild. James pushed his garlic parmesan toward me. Retreat is allowed. I shook my head, tears welling from heat, not grief. No, I need to feel this. Second bite. Third, the burn was clarifying, scouring old bitterness. Sweat beaded my temples. James watched, fascinated. You're glowing. I'm combusting. Same thing, he laughed. We talked through the heat haze, his nephew's obsession with bug architecture, anthills as skyscrapers, my basil seedlings threatening mutiny, the graphic novel's villain, a sentient espresso machine stealing time. Not once did the conversation snag on X's or apologies. Halfway through, the jukebox switched to Patsy Cline Crazy, Daniel's old karaoke song. My smile faltered. James noticed instantly. Song Ghosts? He sang this poorly. At our rehearsal dinner, James stood abruptly, dropped quarters into the jukebox, scrolled, selected. The opening chords of I Will Survive blared too loud, off-key. He held out his hand. Exorcism? The sticky floor felt like quicksand. But his hand was warm, sauce-stained, certain. We swayed terribly between booths. Gloria Gaynor's defiant rasp washed over me. At first I was afraid. I was petrified. James spun me clumsily. I laughed, breathless. He's watching, James murmured into my hair. I followed his gaze. Daniel stood near the pool tables, face shadowed. Not angry, not even sad. Just vacant, a man haunting his own life. Ignore him, James said, pulling me closer. Dance louder. We did. Offbeat, sweating wing sauce, Patsy Cline silenced under Gloria's roar. Daniel turned away, shoulders hunched against the music, against our messy, unapologetic survival. Later, walking home under streetlights, James's sleeve brushed mine. You okay? I touched my lips, still tingling from habaneros. I didn't cry, not once. Progress? Revolution? I declared. He walked me to Elena's stoop. Rain misted the air again, cool balm on flushed skin. Thank you, I said, for the exorcism, and the wings. Thank you, he countered. Thor not retreating. A pause. The city hummed. He leaned in just slightly. I met him halfway. The kiss was brief, chilly hot and sweet, a promise of embers, not conflagration. Good night, Mia, he whispered. Good night, James. Upstairs, Elena waited with wine and raised eyebrows. Saw the kiss and the ghost. I touched my lips, still buzzing. Daniel looked small. Because you stopped making space for him, she said, pouring Merlot. Funny how that shrinks a man. I opened the window. Rain whispered on the fire escape. Below, the street was empty. No Daniel, no lingering ghosts. And just wet pavement reflecting neon like scattered gems. James texted, home, survived the spice. You were the heroic part. P.S. Viola's Panel 4, Roots Dancing. I sent back the only truth left. I feel real again. Morning light hit the seedling trays like a benediction. The basil stretched toward the window, leaves trembling with new confidence. I traced the viola's velvet petals, still perfect after last night's rain, as Elena slammed her coffee cup down. Details. Now, how was the kiss? Short, I admitted, organizing polished bottles by hue. Spicy, like the wings. Spicy is good. Better than Daniel's duty pecks at family barbecues. She paused, squinting at my neck. You're wearing silver. My hand flew to the thin chain James had noticed last night. Like liquid moonlight, a forgotten birthday gift from Daniel. Just felt like it, I lied, tucking it under my collar. Some habits die slowly. Mrs. Kowalski arrived with reinforcements, mint seedlings and egg cartons. For mojitos, she declared. Medicinal. As she settled into my chair, her gaze sharpened on my neckline, where the chain peeked out. Still wearing his ghosts? It's just jewelry, I protested, massaging cuticle oil into her papery skin. She pulled a tarnished locket from her pocket. Frank gave this after the tennis instructor. See? She pried it open empty inside. Wore it till the day he died. Not for him, to remind myself, never fill it with his lies again. The salon door chimed. James stood there holding 2 to-go cups, rain glistening in his hair. Liquid courage delivery, he grinned. Lavender latte experimental. Elena swooped in. Client consultation, Mia. Mrs. Kowalski needs extensive cuticle work. She winked, steering James toward the seedlings. I worked slowly on Mrs. Kowalski's nails, filing, buffing, painting them sheer pearl. He brought you coffee, she observed. He's an artist. Experiments are his language. And yours? I speak in polish and plants now. She chuckled. Good. Words lie. This, she wiggled her freshly gleaming nails, this is truth. James studied the mint seedlings, sketching in his pad. When I joined him, he showed me delicate roots morphing into musical staves, notes floating like seeds. Roots need music to grow, he explained softly. Like us. My silver chain felt suddenly heavy, Daniel's ghost clinging. James, about last night? No post-game analysis, he interrupted gently. Just, glad you didn't retreat. His finger brushed a basil leaf. Though your courage terrifies me. Mine, habaneros, Gloria Gaynor, me. He met my eyes. You dive headfirst. Daniel's voice echoed in memory. You're too much, Mia. Always said like a flaw. Now, James's words, same sentiment, different shape. Terrifying as a compliment. My phone buzzed. Daniel's lawyer, final settlement proposal attached. Signed by Friday, the words blurred. 9 years reduced, 2 PDF pages. James saw my knuckles whiten. Trouble? Paperwork, I evaded. Death by Adobe. He didn't push. Just handed me the latte. Sip. Critique my floral crime. It tasted like perfume and courage. Sweet, strange, alive. Needs more courage, I declared. Noted. He pulled a tiny sprig of lavender from his pocket, stolen from my workstation. For your chain, better occupant than ghosts. Later, a bride arrived, radiant, jittery. Something blue, she begged, waving her engagement ring. But subtle. I mixed midnight and cobalt, painting her nails with a single silver stripe near the cuticle like a secret river. So, the something blue is just for you, I whispered. She squeezed my hand, eyes bright. Exactly. As she left, I unclasped the silver chain. Daniel's ghost slithered into my palm. I walked to the trash bin, hesitated, then dropped it in. Mrs. Kowalski's empty locket glinted from her purse. Never fill it again. James texted, Panel 5, barbershop quartet of basil leaves singing to a viola. Too weird? I photographed the trash bin chain gleaming atop coffee grounds and sent it. Perfect. Just liberated real estate. His reply was instant, a sketch of the chain morphing into a seedling trellis. Caption repurposed. At closing, Elena watered the mint. Chain's gone, finally. Mrs. Kowalski's locket taught me, empty isn't hollow. It's potential, deep, deep. She plucked a mint leaf, crushing it under her nose. Now invite James for mojitos. Test your potential. I hesitated. Typed, mojito experiment. I provide mint. You provide bravery. 3 dots danced. Then, only if you promise no glitter volcanoes. And maybe one more exorcism. I touched my neck bare now, light as wings. Outside, rain cleared. Sunset gilded the puddles, turning the street into a river of gold. I texted back, bring your sketchbook. We'll write new scores. James arrived for his mojito appointment, wielding sketchbooks and a terracotta pot painted with dancing roots. Housing upgrade for the viola, he announced, setting it beside my workstation. The salon hummed with Saturday chaos bridal parties debating glitter gradients, a toddler wailing as her mother got dip powder. Elena shouted over the dryers, mojito station set up in the break room. Emergency rations. I guided James to my chair. First, the bravery test. I uncapped cuticle oil lavender and tea tree. Full manicure, no biting allowed. Even if your client screams about frosting disasters. He nodded toward the bride, hyperventilating over too icy. Chrome nails. Especially then, I said, massaging his knuckles. His hands relaxed instantly. Trust written in the unclenching. Mrs. Kowalski shuffled over, thrusting divorce papers at me. Final summons. Sign before the mojitos, honey. Clarity first. The document felt cold, clinical. Petition for dissolution. Daniel's signature already slashed across page 4, a sharp, angry line. Here, I whispered. Where better? She tapped my counter stained with polish and hope. Your battlefield. Your victory lap. James stayed silent, his thumb tracing circles on my wrist. Want privacy? Stay, I breathed. Just keep talking about root systems. He did, as I initialed margin after margin. Initial here, 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 and here. Miss Torres. James described panel 6. The viola's roots find a crack in the divorce decree, right? And they grow through it, shattering the legalese, I finished, signing Mia Torres with a flourish I didn't feel. The pen scratched like a verdict. Exactly, he grinned. Then the judge bangs his gavel order. Order in the court of persistent freaking flowers. A laugh burst from me, startling the anxious bride. Elena snatched the signed papers. I'll FedEx this epitaph. Now. She shoved James's hands back toward me, finish his nails. We have rebels to hydrate. I painted James's nails with clear strengthener, the brush steady. No color, he teased. Your rebellion is subtlety, I countered. No more bitten nails. No more believing you're useless. He flexed his fingers clean, strong. Feels like armor. It is. The break room smelled of crushed mint and limes. Elena muddled herbs with vengeful joy. To Daniel's decrepit Le Creuset. She toasted. We clinked jam jar glasses. The mojito was tart sweet, alive burning my throat like truth. James studied the viola's cramped plastic pot. Ready for transplant? We gathered supplies, potting soil, gravel, the painted terracotta home. As I loosened the root ball, soil crumbling, Mrs. Kowalski appeared. Gentle now, she instructed. Support the neck. Roots are tender after confinement. James cupped the viola's base, his newly armored nails stark against dark soil. I lowered it into the new pot, our fingers brushing in the earth. The viola settled, leaves trembling. More space, I whispered. Room to breathe, James agreed. Mrs. Kowalski sprinkled compost like fairy dust. Now water it. Thoroughly. Shock needs drowning. I poured slowly. Water darkened the soil, seeped through terracotta pores. The viola stood straighter petals, lifting toward the buzzing fluorescent light. Panel 7, James declared, sketching rapidly, the divorce papers dissolving into soil, viola roots punching through inky whereas clauses. My phone buzzed. Daniel, paper signed. I'll be by Tuesday for the rest of my things. No, sorry, no good luck. Just logistics. James read the text over my shoulder. Want me to be here? No, I said, surprising myself. This ghost only haunts if I open the door. I typed back, boxes in garage. Code E0914, our anniversary date. Let him taste the irony. Elena refilled our glasses. To roots, she toasted, and knowing when to repot. Later, alone with the seedlings, James traced the silver stripe on my own nail, the something blue secret I'd kept. Rebellion looks good on you, he murmured. Learned from experts, I said, nodding toward Mrs. Kowalski's empty chair. He hesitated. The terrify me part? Still true. The habaneros or the dancing? How you transplant, he said softly. Uproot, settle, bloom, all while painting nails and fighting ghosts. Outside, dusk painted the sky peach and violet. I touched the viola's petal velvet resilience. You sketched me dancing through cracks, James. That's not terror. That's awe, he finished. We repotted the basil and lavender too. Their freed roots coiled eagerly in rich soil. When James left, he took the sketchbook and one mint seedling. For my kitchen window, he said, to remind me, growth needs space and shock. I locked the salon, the divorce papers echo fading. In the dark, the seedlings stood sentinel. I whispered Mrs. Kowalski's lesson to them. Roots are tender after confinement. But water pooled in the saucers. Clear, deep, drowning the shock. Tuesday dawned brittle bright. I stood in the garage. Our garage now just hollowed concrete and dust motes dancing in slatted light. Daniel's boxes sat like gravestones, gym, records, photo albums. The code HO914 felt like a betrayal etched into the keypad. He arrived precisely at 10 a.m. Not in his old jeans, but pressed slacks. Her influence probably. His gaze swept past me to the boxes. Efficient, he remarked, voice flat. Elena helped, I said, crossing my arms. My nails, freshly painted stormy gray with a hidden silver lightning bolt, felt like armor. He hefted the records box. Inside, vintage vinyl we'd collected at flea markets, our retirement plan, he joked. Now, he flipped through sleeves. Take anything? No. The lie tasted clean. I kept Billie Holiday's Lady in Satin, the one we danced to in this garage during a blackout. Let him think I'd erased it all. He paused at photo albums, flipped open the top one, us at Coney Island, cotton candy smeared on my chin, his arm tight around my waist. God, we looked happy, he murmured, almost to himself. We were, I said, until we weren't. His jaw tightened. You never fought for us, Mia. The audacity stole my breath. Fought? I stepped into a shaft of light, dust swirling like agitated spirits. I fought cancer. I fought for us when you checked out. I fought to believe your lies when they chipped me to bone. My voice didn't shake. You just fought with me. He slammed the album shut. Fine, keep the sanctimony. As he loaded boxes into his sub-eye, I noticed the seedlings I'd exiled here weeks ago, forgotten in the chaos. A spindly basil, a lavender clinging to life. Taking these? I asked, holding up the tray. What, your rebirth rejects? He didn't look back. Trash them. The soup peeled away. Silence rushed in, deafening, final. I sank onto the cold concrete, the abandoned seedlings in my lap, their roots poked through drainage holes, desperate, seeking. Roots are tender after confinement, Mrs. Kowalski's voice echoed. My phone buzzed. James, garage gladiating done? I'm sending reinforcements. A car horn tooted outside. Elena leaned out her beat-up Civic, waving a giant iced coffee. "Get in, soldier. Debrief at HQ." The salon was chaos-free for once. Mrs. Kowalski waited, holding a chipped soup pot. "For the rejects," she announced. Elena thrust the coffee into my hands. Sweet, cold, life-saving. I repotted the seedlings at my workstation, crumbling dry soil from their roots. "He called them rejects," I whispered. "So?" Mrs. Kowalski dumped potting mix into the pot. "Hitler hated jazz. Doesn't make it trash." James arrived as I settled the lavender. "Casualties? Survivors," I corrected, showing him the basil's tenacious white roots. He unrolled a sketch, panel 8 Daniel's sous vide morphing into a wilted weed while seedling roots burst through its tires. Caption, "Rejects strike back." "Needs color," Mrs. Kowalski declared, sprinkling compost. We worked in comfortable silence. James sketching, Elena labeling polish, me watering. My phone lit, Daniel's lawyer. "Mr. Torres requests the remaining patio furniture." I stared at the message. Saw our wrought iron bistro set, where we'd shared coffee every Sunday, planting gardens we never planted. "What?" Elena snapped. I showed her the text. The sanctimony wasn't enough. James took my phone. Typed, "Available for pickup. 200, Venmo up front." He hit send before I could protest. "What? He wants it, he pays." "Rebirth funds," Mrs. Kowalski cackled. "Artists got spine." Daniel's response was immediate, since, "When are you mercenary?" James replied, "Since 10,007 a.m. Market rate." Venmo pinged, $200. "Seedling fund secured," James grinned. Later, James walked me to Elena's. Sunset gilded the brownstones. "Today was a lot," he said. "But you didn't shatter or hide." "Almost did." "In the garage." I touched the lavender seedling I'd kept, now tucked in a recycled yogurt cup. Then I remembered. Roots grow toward what feeds them, not away from what poisons. He stopped under a blossoming cherry tree. Petals snowed around us. "Mia Torres," he said softly. "You're remarkable. Not beautiful, not strong. Remarkable. A word with space to breathe." "James?" "Yeah, the dive bar wings." "Were they really non-terrible?" He laughed. "Rich, unexpected. They were awful, gluey. But watching you conquer habaneros was worth it." I plucked a cherry blossom, tucked it behind his ear. "Next time, I pick the place." "Deal." He hesitated, then kissed my cheek, a brush of warmth against the day's chill. "Text me when the mercenary patio set leaves." Upstairs, Elena had the mojito pitcher ready. "Well?" I placed the lavender seedling on her windowsill. He called me remarkable. "Damn right." She clinked my glass. "To remarkable rejects." Outside, the streetlights flickered on. Daniel's Venmo glowed on my screen, 200 for ghosts. I transferred it to savings. Labeled Seed Money CRE. The garage was empty now. So was the chain around my neck. But the seedling roots curled eagerly in fresh soil, no longer confined, no longer begging. James's art show invitation arrived pressed inside a dried viola petal. Persistent blooms. Opening night. "Where's silver?" I stood before Elena's closet, rejecting black morning dresses, settled on steel gray silk, sleeveless, backless that made my short hair look deliberate, fierce. My nails, bare, buffed to moonstone sheen. "No armor tonight," I whispered to my reflection. "Just skin." The gallery buzzed with Brooklyn chic exposed brick walls, industrial pipes dripping with ivy, people sipping organic wine. James stood near a large canvas, gesturing animatedly. He froze when he saw me. "Mia." His gaze traveled from my silver strappy heels to my collarbones. "You glow, reflecting your lighting." I deflected, heat rising. He took my hand, no hesitation, and led me to his series, Root Systems. 7 panels tracing resilience. Panel 1, a hotel keycard dissolving into acrylic swirls. Panel 3, hair shears cutting chains that bled into musical notes. Panel 5, my silver-cracked kintsugi nails mending divorce papers. Then, Panel 7, us, not literal, abstract. My silhouette dancing under dive bar neon, roots tangling with James's sketching hand. Soil bled into wing sauce, notes into rain. Caption, symbiosis, jaws, fortier, mass imbios. You painted me, I breathed. You are the exhibit, he corrected softly. The viola was just a stand-in. A waiter offered champagne. James took 2 flutes. To roots that grab lightning, he toasted. We clinked. Across the room, a familiar laugh sliced through the murmur. Daniel. Arm around a willowy blonder, the colleague. My champagne turned to ash. James followed my gaze. Want to leave? No. The word felt heavy. True. This is my soil now. Daniel spotted us. His smirk faltered seeing James's hand on my bare back. He whispered to the blonde. They approached. Mia. Daniel's voice oozed false warmth. You clean up, surprisingly well. His eyes flickered over James. This, the client? James extended his hand. James Chen, the artist. Right. Daniel ignored the handshake. Adorable hobby. He nodded at panel 5. My nails repairing legal documents. Cute metaphor, though technically, Maya always avoided conflict. The blonde giggled high. Brittle. Passive-aggressive nail art? Observational, James countered smoothly. Mia observes everything. How cuticles split under stress. How vows crack under lies. He stepped closer to Daniel. How some men mistake silence for weakness. Daniel's neck flushed. This weakness cost me half my assets. No, I said, voice crystalline. Your choices did. I touched James's sleeve. Show me panel 8. We turned away. Daniel's hissed bitch barely reached us. Panel 8 stopped me cold. The garage. Me crouched on concrete, cradling seedlings. Daniel's sous vide taillights blurred red in the distance. But from my hands, roots exploded, coiling around tires, cracking concrete, blooming into violent purple flowers that swallowed the car whole. Caption. Reclamation. Puz. You saw that? My throat tightened. Elena texted me a play-by-play. James's thumb brushed my wrist. You looked like Persephone rising. More like a sweaty manicurist having a breakdown. Same thing, he smiled. We circled the gallery. Strangers paused at symbiosis, murmuring praise. The tension between neon and soil brilliant. An older woman told James. He squeezed my hand. My muse insists on messy truth. Near midnight, Daniel and his blonde left, slamming the door. The room sighed. James pulled me onto a tiny balcony overlooking a rain-slicked alley. Thank you, he said. For not running, thank you, I countered. For turning my cracks into art. Rain misted our faces. He cupped my cheek, calloused thumb tracing my jawline. Mia, James, a clatter inside, someone dropped wine. We jumped apart, laughing. The moment fractured, but the charge remained, a live wire between us. Walk me home? I asked. Elena's hosting post-gallery debrief mojitos. Only if I'm invited. You're the guest of honor. We collected our coats. James paused at symbiosis, touching the corner where our silhouettes merged. This one's yours, he said. If you want it, where would I hang it? I teased. Between the basil and the divorce decree? Wherever you plant your roots next, he said quietly. Outside, rain had washed the streets into liquid onyx. We walked close, shoulders brushing. No kiss. Not yet, but his pinky hooked around mine. Small, certain. Elena greeted us with a pitcher, Mrs. Kowalski snoring on her couch. Well, did pretentious Daniel combust? He left early, James grinned. Art-induced indigestion. I touched my bare neck. No chain, no ghosts. Only rain-cooled skin and the imprint of James's thumb. He called me passive-aggressive. Elena poured. We haven't traded when 2-7 dated May 2-1, more about lax with rate, being sense with 100 of the topic's strange crosses. I used to be, I admitted. Now I'm just persistent. James raised his glass. To persistent blooms. We drank. The mojito tasted like lavender and lightning. James's basil seedling thrived on his fire escape. He texted daily photos, dew-kissed leaves against brick walls, roots sneaking through pot cracks. It's plotting world domination, he warned. I smiled, buffing Mrs. Rosen's nails rebel red again. That artist's basil? She asked, eyeing my phone, reporting for duty. Good. Men who nurture things, she flexed her fingers. Rarer than conflict-free diamonds. My divorce decree arrived that afternoon. Thick parchment paper embossed, dissolved. Elena framed it in neon pink sail. Plastic and hung it behind reception. Art therapy, she declared. Mrs. Kowalski added plastic gems spelling freedom. Daniel's final box sat unclaimed in the garage misc. I'd ignored it for weeks. But rain drummed the roof that evening, a relentless rhythm that felt like closure. I hauled it inside Elena's apartment, James watching with wary eyes. Pandora's box, he asked, handing me scissors. More like archaeological dig. Inside, forgotten relics. A Coney Island snow globe, cloudy water. His college sweatshirt, paint-stained, from when we redid the bedroom. And at the bottom, our recipe box, hand-painted with clumsy sunflowers. I flipped it open. Index cards in my handwriting, Mia's killer lasagna. Daniel's secret chili, add cocoa powder. James picked out a card stained with balsamic, roasted garlic, and basil pesto. Irony, he murmured. His box, your recipe. My basil. Make it? The question slipped out. Tonight, before courage evaporates? He studied me, the snow globe weeping fake snow in my lap. Only if we rewrite the recipe. His apartment smelled of graphite and ozone-like. A storm brewing over warm earth. Sketches papered the walls, viola roots tangling subway maps, kintsugi nails mending skyscrapers. The basil perched by the window, lush and arrogant. It likes you better, I accused, plucking leaves. It senses potential, he countered, grating parmesan. We moved in his tiny kitchen like dancers avoiding landmines. His elbow brushed mine, reaching for pine nuts. My hip grazed his while washing basil. Each touch sparked. Small, conscious. Knife skills? He asked, handing me garlic. Manicurist precision. I minced cloves into oblivion. He toasted pine nuts. I pulsed basil, garlic, oil in his blender, a vibrant green whirlpool. Daniel hated pesto, I remembered suddenly, called it grass paste. More for us. James swiped a finger through the emerald swirl, fed it to me. Verdict? Garlic burned, basil sang. Needs salt, I rasped. Life usually does. He sprinkled flaky sea salt, his fingers lingering near mine. We ate cross-legged on his floor, pesto pasta steaming on mismatched plates. Rain blurred the fire escape. Panel 9, he said suddenly. The recipe card. Roots growing through cocoa powder, strangling Daniel's secret. I traced a basil leaf on his windowsill. Why me, James? I'm damaged goods with trust issues. Aren't we all? He set his plate aside. You fought a war and still plant lavender. You repot rejects. You dance to Gloria Gaynor in dive bars. His thumb brushed pesto from my lip. That's not damaged. That's forged. The air thickened. Rain whispered secrets to the basil. He leaned in slowly, giving me space to retreat. I closed the distance. The kiss tasted like garlic, parmesan, and green, growing things. Not a conflagration. A slow burn like roots seeking deeper soil. When we pulled apart, his sketchpad lay open between us, a half-finished panel 9. Symbiosis Part 2? I teased, breathless. Root-bound, he corrected, tucking my hair behind my ear. When roots get too tangled to separate. My phone buzzed, Daniel's lawyer. Final notice, abandoned property box misc will be donated 515. James read it. Want me to Venmo him 200 for it too? I took the phone, typed, donate it. Keep the recipe box. Attached a photo, our pesto-stained card with Daniel's secret chili crossed out. Below, in my handwriting, Mia and James's basil revolution. Daniel replied minutes later, keep the damn box. And the rooster lamp. I showed James. We laughed until tears mingled with pesto grease. Later, washing dishes, he hummed, I will survive off-key. I harmonized, bumping hips. The basil watched, leaves quivering, a silent, green applause. As I left, he pressed the recipe card into my palm. For your next windowsill. Not ours? He kissed my forehead. A promise. Roots take time, Mia. We've got soil, we've got seeds. He nodded at the storm. And apparently, plenty of rain. Walking home, I clutched the card. Rain soaked through my jacket, clean and cold. Daniel's wedding band, the one I'd kept in Misk, felt heavy in my pocket. I stopped at the East River. Pulled it out. The gold gleamed under a street lamp, etched with our wedding date. Not a chain. Not anymore. Just metal. I threw it. The plink vanished into the river's dark hymn. No regret. Only the recipe card in my hand, damp and defiant. Elena waited up, mojito pitcher empty. Well, I showed her the card. We make excellent pesto. She snorted. Finally, a real victory. The city steamed after the rain, asphalt exhaling humidity while my seedlings drank the muggy light. James's basil had conquered his fire escape, its scent bleeding into his sketches. He arrived at the salon holding rolled blueprints, eyes alight. Found it, he announced. The space next door's for lease. Brick walls, big windows. Perfect. Elena snatched the plans. Double the stations. Finally, she jabbed at a corner. Here, hydroponic herb wall. Clients get calm while we make bank. Mrs. Kowalski squinted. Room for my mint mojito lab? Priority? James vowed. I den choose-nied. I traced the dimensions, 1 CQ ft. Fear prickled my spine. The deposit alone, James unrolled another sketch. Persistent blooms nail sanctuary and botanicals. The logo, a viola root tangling with a nail file, bloomed above chic stations. Seed money, he said softly. Plus, I sold symbiosis. My breath caught. James, no. That was ours, he corrected. The collector offered $5,000. Exactly the deposit. He pressed the check into my hand, payable to Mia Torres and Elena Rodriguez. Elena whooped, Mrs. Rosen clapped. I'll invest. Call it Crimson Fury Capital. Daniel chose that moment to text, Rooster Lamp pick up tomorrow. 10 a.m. The joy curdled. James saw my face. Want me to handle it? No, I said, squaring my shoulders. I'll gift wrap the damn bird. The rooster glared from Elena's table-cracked eye, daring me to flinch. I polished its garish feathers with lemon oil until they gleamed. Farewell, soldier, Elena saluted. You served well. Daniel arrived at 10,001 a.m., reeking of expensive cologne. His gaze snagged on the blueprints spread across the salon stations. New venture? Expansion? I said, handing him the lamp. He snorted. Nail empire. Cute. Sanctuary, James corrected, appearing with lease papers. For survivors, persistent ones. Daniel's knuckles whitened on the rooster's neck. Still playing artist? Still playing grown-up? James shot back. The air crackled. Mrs. Kowalski shuffled over, thrusting a mint seedling at Daniel. Take this too. Reject. Solidarity. He stared at the offering soil crumbling onto his polished loafers. What am I supposed to? Nurture something, I said. Or kill it. Your choice. He left, rooster under one arm, seedling dangling like an afterthought. We watched through the sale. Decal as he dumped the plant in a trash bin before driving off. Wasted good mint, Elena sighed. James retrieved the seedling, its roots exposed. Not wasted, he said, repotting it in the Crimson Fury mug. Just relocated. Signing the lease felt like jumping off a cliff, terrifying, weightless. The property manager slid keys across the dusty counter, 2 brass teeth promising soil for new roots. Construction starts Monday, he droned. Back at the salon, we celebrated with bodega champagne. Mrs. Kowalski led a toast to cracks in concrete, and the weeds dumb enough to grow through 'em. James pulled me aside. Walk me through your vision? Properly? We slipped next door empty, echoing, smelling of old incense and possibility. Sunlight slanted through grimy windows. Stations here, I gestured. Hydroponic wall there, reception under that window. So, the violas get morning light, he finished, sketching rapidly. I leaned against raw brick. Why are you doing this? The art sale, the blueprints, he stilled. Because when I sketch you, his pencil traced air. You're always growing toward something. Not away. He stepped closer. I want to grow toward things too. Dust motes danced between us. I touched his graphite-smudged cheek, even if it's messy. Even if especially if, he whispered. Our kiss tasted of plaster dust and champagne, a blueprint unfurling. No dive bar heat, no garage grief. Just two people planting flags in fresh soil. My phone buzzed. Daniel's lawyer. Again. Mr. Torres requests contact regarding shared storage unit. James growled. Venmo him for oxygen next time. I typed. Relinquish all claims to storage unit 14B. Contents donated. Further contact XT harassment. Sent. Blocked the number. The silence afterward felt like open sky. That night, we painted the new space's test wall, Lavender Storm, while Mrs. Kowalski snored on drop cloths. James's phone played Patsy Cline defiantly. New memories, he declared, splattering silver onto my overalls. Elena arrived with pizza. The persistent Bloom sign gets installed Tuesday. Neon violet. We ate cross-legged on the floor. James showed me panel 10, the keys. Brass teeth morphing into viola stems, unlocking a door where our silhouettes danced in lavender light. Needs text, I said, stealing his pencil. Below the door, I scrawled, no former ghosts. No future guarantees. Just soil. And sun. And stubborn roots. He captured my wrist, kissed my paint-stained knuckles. Perfect. Walking home, we passed the river. No rings to throw, just keys jingling in my pocket. James's pinky hooked mine again. Still terrifying? I asked. Terrifyingly right, he said. Above us, the bridge lights shimmered on the water, not shattered glass anymore. A path of gold leading somewhere new. Sawdust hung in the air like amber fog, catching the late afternoon sun slicing through persistent Bloom's unfinished windows. I knelt on drop cloths, sealing grout between river stone tiles, each cool gray pebble a tiny anchor in the chaos. James's sneakers appeared beside me, splattered with lavender storm paint. Hydroponic systems leaking, he announced, handing me a chai latte. Again. Alina's domain, I sighed, wiping grout from my moonstone nails. She wanted jungle vibes, now we have indoor rain. He crouched, tracing the tile pattern stones flowing toward the reception desk like a creek bed. Like your kintsugi nails. Broken things remade, better. His fingertip brushed a gap I'd missed. Here, let me. We worked hip to hip, his artist's hands surprisingly deft with the grout float. Silence settled, comfortable as old sweatpants. Not like with Daniel, where quiet meant landmines. This silence grew things. Nervous? He asked, smoothing a stubborn seam. About the opening or the hydroponic monsoon? Both. I watched dust motes dance in sunbeams. Mostly that I'll forget this version. The sawdust and dreams version? The us version, I admitted. Before clients and cash flow. When it was just, I gestured at his paint-smeared forearm pressed to mine. This. He stilled the float. Mia. We're laying literal roots. He nudged a seedling tray waiting by the hydroponic wall. Basil, violas, lavender. They'll remind us. The door chimed. Mrs. Kowalski shuffled in, leaning on her walker, a paper bag dangling from its handle. Housewarming? She thumped the bag onto the unfinished reception desk, glass jars clinking. Mojito starters. Medicinal. James helped her navigate around tool piles. Careful, the floors. Wonky, like my hip. She waved him off, peering at the river stone tiles. You left gaps. For grout, I explained. For life, she corrected, pulling a Ziploc from her cardigan. Inside, wildflower seeds, poppies, cornflowers, chamomile. Sprinkle 'em in the cracks. Let 'em surprise you. James caught my eye, grinning. Persistent blooms? Damn right, Mrs. Kowalski winked. We planted seeds as dusk bled into the city. James in the tile gaps, me in the hydroponic wall's overflow tray. They'll drown, I fretted. Or learn to swim, he countered. Elena arrived, wrestling a wobbling neon sign sanctuary in looping violet script. Help, this thing's heavier than regret. We mounted it above the door. When she flipped the switch, violet light bathed the raw space, illuminating dust, exposed pipes, and James's handprint in lavender storm on the brick. Tuesday, Elena breathed. We open. Panic fluttered in my ribs. What if no one comes? What if Daniel's voice still lives in my hands when I hold a buffer? James squeezed my shoulder. Walk the space with me. We moved through violet-tinted shadows, past the nail stations, unwrapped chairs like sleeping ghosts, past the hydroponic wall, dripping defiantly, to the corner where my shears lay beside his sketchbook. He flicked it open. Not a new panel, a blueprint titled Root-Bound Expansion. Phase 2, he said softly, a tiny studio above. For when, he trailed off, cheeks flushing, for when we're ready to grow up. I traced the sketch, a loft bed, a seedling nursery by the window, a clawfoot tub. No ghosts allowed? Only benevolent ones. He nodded at Mrs. Kowalski napping in a client chair, wildflower seeds spilling from her pocket. And her. My phone buzzed. A calendar alert, final inspection, tomorrow 9 a.m., the fears surged, metallic. What if we fail? James cupped my face, thumbs smudging grout on my jaw. Then we'll plant more damn seeds. His kiss tasted of chai and sawdust, a promise etched in unfinished edges. But Mia, look what we built from ash. Outside, streetlights flickered on. The neon sanctuary sign cast violet ripples on the wet pavement. Not a full bloom, not yet. But a bud, clenched tight and quivering with potential. I picked up my grout float. One tile left near the door. Instead of sealing it, I pressed 3 chamomile seeds into the gap. For surprises, James sketched it, my dirt-stained finger-planting hope in stone. Opening day dawned with a sky like freshly buffed cobalt. Too perfect, too still. I arrived at 6 a.m., heart hammering against my ribs. The neon sanctuary sign hummed, bathing the empty salon in violet anticipation. My hands trembled as I arranged bottles of persistent bloom, polished custom-mixed lavender gray, beside seedling-themed gift bags. Breathe, I told myself. Just breathe. James found me polishing already gleaming stations. Nervous? He pressed a steaming mug into my hands, chai steeped with our basil. Hydroponic walls behaving. For now. What if no one? The door chimed. Mrs. Rosen stood framed in sunrise, diamonds replaced by a simple silver band. First client privileges, darling. She settled into chair RD1, thrusting her hands forward. Rebellious red, for old time's sake. As I filed her nails, the familiar rhythm steadied me, swish, 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 swish. Outside, a line formed, Elena's bridesmaid brigade, Mrs. Kowalski directing foot traffic with her walker, strangers lured by neon. By 9 a.m., the salon buzzed, dryers roaring, lavender oil diffusing, laughter bouncing off brick. Mia! Elena waved a leaking hydroponic tube. Jungle vibes need plumbers. I lunged with a towel. James intercepted, splicing the tube with electrical tape. Temporary fix, he shouted over Gloria Gaynor blasting from his sketchbook. Mrs. Kowarski cornered a hesitant young woman. Sit. My treat. Divorce? Breakup? Same battlefield, Mrs. Kowalski declared, nudging her into my chair. Mia's a veteran. The girl Lena, 24, barista, showed me nails bitten to angry red crescents. He said they were ugly, she whispered. I soaked her hands in chamomile water. We don't speak his language here. As I massaged cuticle oil into her ragged skin, she flinched. Does it hurt? Healing often does, I said softly. But look. I pointed to the tile floor where cornflower sprouts already pushed through grout cracks near her feet. Persistent things surprise you. James delivered lattes, his arm brushing mine. Panel 12, he murmured, nodding at Lena's hands. Bitten nails growing into viola stems. At noon, chaos peaked. A gel dryer malfunctioned, smoking like a tiny dragon. Elena yelled, "Fire drill? Or just drama," while fanning it with a magazine. The hydroponic tape failed, drenching James's sketches. Mrs. Rosen demanded a chrome redo, too icy. Like my ex's heart. Through the madness, I caught my reflection in the window. Short hair tucked behind silver leaf earrings, forehead smudged with polish, lips curved in an actual smile. Not the performative one I'd worn for Daniel. Something loosened in my chest, a knot I'd carried since finding that hotel keycard. Mia, table 3 needs you. Elena shouted. I took a breath. 1 minute. Stepping outside, I leaned against the sun-warmed brick. The city roared, honking cabs, jackhammers, life relentless. But here, in this pocket of violet light, we'd built something tender. A woman passed, cradling a persistent bloom gift bag like a treasure. Inside, basil seeds, strengthener sample, Mrs. Kowalski's mojito recipe. James joined me, handing over a salvaged Sketchwater warped, but panel 12 clear, Lena's hands morphing into roots that cradled a sprouting cornflower. You did that, he said. We did, I corrected. He kissed my temple chai and ozone. Ready for round 2? Back inside, Lena stared at her nails capped with courage coral, shimmering like sunrise. They're not ugly, she breathed. No, I agreed, they're yours. As she left, she hugged Mrs. Kowalski. Thank you, thank the cracks, honey, Mrs. Kowalski rasped, pointing to the floor. They let the light in. At closing, we collapsed on drop cloths. The salon was wrecked, polished spills like abstract art, seedling trays overturned, the neon sign flickering. Elena tallied receipts. We broke even, and booked out 2 weeks. Mrs. Kowalski presented a mason jar filled with cash and wildflower petals. Tips for the loft fund. James unrolled a new blueprint, root-bound loft. Above the salon, windows facing east. For mornings, he said, voice rough with exhaustion and pride. And, whatever comes next. I traced the sketched window box overflowing with violas. We'll need more seeds. Always, he smiled. Walking home, our fingers laced. No pinky hooks, full certainty. The city lights mirrored in rain puddles, fracturing into violet constellations. No ghosts trailed us. No regrets. Just the warm weight of keys in my pocket, the scent of lavender clinging to my skin, and the memory of Lena's trembling smile. Today felt, I searched for the word. Real, James supplied. Yes, I thought, not perfect. Not easy, but real like grout-stained hands and cornflowers cracking concrete. Like roots finally finding their rhythm in the dark. The loft's skeleton rose like exposed ribs above the salon rafters draped in cobwebs, floorboards gaping like missing teeth. Sawdust snowed onto clients below. Elena yelled, "Free exfoliation!" as James and I tore up rotten planks. Found the leak source, he called. Flashlight beam catching black mold blooming across a joist, a fungal echo of Daniel's betrayal. Structural damage. Hidden. Cut it out, I said, handing him the crowbar. All of it. We worked in rhythm, pry, splinter, toss. My muscles burned, sweat stinging my eyes. Below, Mrs. Kowalski lectured a newly divorced client. Loves like this renovation, honey. Gotta rip out the rot before you lay new floors. A floorboard groaned underfoot. I stumbled. James caught my waist. High grip firm, paint-stained fingers splayed over my hip. Steady. His breath warmed my temple. For a heartbeat, we hovered in the dust-choked air. Demolition paused. The salon's violet neon bled through floor cracks, striping his jawline. James Chen, I whispered. Are we building nests or ruins? Yes, he grinned, releasing me slowly. A glint caught my eye beneath the crowbar's claw. Wedged in grime, Daniel's wedding band. Our wedding band. I froze. James saw it. The cold gold winking in flashlight glare. Leave it, he said quietly. Or throw it. But don't hold it, Mia. I pried it loose. Felt its weight, 9 years distilled into cold metal. Daniel's voice slithered through memory. You'll never do better. Mia. James reached out. I dropped the ring into a bucket of joint compound. It sank with a thick glug, vanishing under white paste. New foundation, I declared, voice raw. He squeezed my shoulder, wordless solidarity. We broke for lunch on the fire escape, legs dangling over the city's hum. James unwrapped pesto sandwiches while I scrubbed plaster from my nails. Regret it? He asked, nodding toward the bucket. Only that I didn't do it sooner. I bit into the sandwich, garlic sharp, basil bright. He lives here, I tapped my temple. Rent-free. How do I evict him? Build louder tenants. James pulled out his sketchbook. Panel 13, the bucket. Ring dissolving into joint compound that morphs into viola roots, solidifying a fractured joist. Turn ghosts into glue. Mrs. Kowalski's head popped through the loft hatch. Client crisis. Teenage meltdown over lumpy cuticles. Needs the boss. Downstairs, Chloe, 16, prom tomorrow, sobbed into her mother's shoulder. They're ugly. She thrust out hands, nails bitten bloody, cuticles shredded. Jake'll laugh. I knelt before her. Jake's the one with the bad tie last homecoming? She blinked. How'd you... Elena's gossip network. I soaked Chloe's hands in warm chamomile water. Let's fix what hurts, not what he sees. As I gently pushed back her cuticles, Chloe whispered, "He dumped me. Over text." "Ah," I said. "The real lump," she nodded, tears dripping onto the towel. "Why don't I feel pretty?" "Because pretty's his word." I showed her my palms, calloused, stained, scarred from chemo years ago. These held my husband while he cried over his dad's funeral. These repotted mint after Daniel trashed it. These, I flexed them, built this place. I met her eyes. "Pretty is too small for hands that fight." Chloe stared. "What color then?" "Courage coral," or I held up a bottle. "Wild roots." Deep emerald shimmered with gold flecks like sunlight through forest canopy. "Wild roots," she breathed. I painted each nail slowly, meticulously. Chloe's sniffles subsided. At the station next to us, Mrs. Kowalski nodded approval. Good soil in that one. That night, James and I sanded the loft's new pine floors. Sawdust coated our skin like gilded dust. Radio static mixed with the sander's growl until James found a station playing At Last by Etta James. "Cliché," I laughed, sanding harder. "Fight me," he challenged, unplugging my sander. He pulled me up. We swayed on raw wood, barefoot in sawdust. Etta's velvet voice wrapped around us. "My lonely days are over, no dive bar bravado." No gallery tension, just his palm warm on my lower back, my cheek resting against his heartbeat. We moved through moonlit construction debris, a slow orbit in the half-built space that was ours. Chloe texted, I murmured, "Sent a prom pic. Wild roots, nails front and center." "Told you," he kissed my hairline. "Persistent blooms." We stopped dancing. His thumb traced my collarbone, Daniel's favorite place to leave possessive kisses. "Still afraid?" James asked. Terrified," I admitted, "but not of you. Of how much room you take up here." I touched my chest. "Good." He pressed his forehead to mine. I brought my own soil, my own water, my own damn seeds. Below, the salon's neon blinked off. Footsteps faded, Elena locking up. In the sudden dark, James's hand slid to my waist. "Stay?" Not a demand. An invitation. "Where?" I teased, gesturing at the chaos. "Right here." He unfolded 2 sleeping bags onto the sanded floor. "We'll christen the subfloor." We lay shoulder to shoulder, staring at exposed rafters. Streetlight painted gold stripes across his face. "The ring," I whispered. "It's still in the bucket." "Let it set," he said, lacing his fingers through mine, wild root gold glitter on both our nails, catching the light. Some things are better buried in foundations. Morning light pierced the loft's unfinished windows, striping our sleeping bags in gold. James's arm lay heavy across my waist, his breath warm against my neck. Sawdust clung to our skin like celestial glitter. For a suspended moment, the world held only the rhythm of his heartbeat and the distant sigh of traffic, a lullaby of after. Then the jackhammer started. "Right on schedule," James groaned, pulling a pillow over his head. Below, construction crews ripped up the sidewalk for city pipe repairs. The salon's windows rattled. We stumbled downstairs to chaos. Elena battled the espresso machine, shouting over the noise. "They say 3 days of this. Mrs. Rosen's 9 a.m. will riot." Hydroponic water trembled in its tubes. The cornflowers in the tile cracks shivered. James pressed chai into my hands, steeped with extra basil. We survived Daniel. We'll survive municipal hell. Mrs. Kowalski arrived early, slamming her walker down like a gavel. "War zone, where's my tactical mojito?" She eyed our rumpled clothes, plaster-dusted hair. "Loft christening successful, I see." Heat flooded my cheeks. James coughed. "Subfloors, sturdy." "Good," she declared. "Roots need firm foundations." The jackhammer's roar chased clients all morning. Nail art wobbled, soothing lavender oil lost to diesel fumes. During Lena's fill, she jumped at a violent crunch, smudging her wild roots polish. "Sorry, not your fault." I steadied her hand, repainting the chip. Sometimes the world shakes. We just repaint. At noon, Daniel appeared. He stood outside the rattling window, impeccably dressed, face a mask of icy contempt. His gaze locked onto James, helping me recalibrate a vibrating dryer. When James leaned close, pointing at a loose wire, Daniel's knuckles whitened. He shoved the door open. The sanctuary, neon flickered. "Charming," he sneered, voice slicing through construction din. "Playing handyman now, James? Or just mooching off her hustle?" James stepped forward. I gripped his arm, not for him, for me. "We're busy, Daniel." Clearly. His eyes raked the salon. The hydroponic wall, Mrs. Kowalski glowering, Lena's nervous stare. "Cute little cult you've built. Peddling polish and plants?" He laughed, brittle, cruel. "Still avoiding reality, Mia? Hiding in this craft project?" Mrs. Kowalski slammed her mug down. "Reality's overrated, Danny. Like your hairline." Daniel flushed. "This doesn't concern you, old woman." "Everything here concerns me." She thumped her walker. "This ain't yours to poison anymore." Scram. James moved to the door, blocking Daniel's path deeper inside. "You heard her. Sanctuary rules." "Sanctuary?" Daniel spat. "It's a glorified nail hut run by a warrior." Elena cut in, appearing with a steaming wax pot held like a weapon. "Who rebuilt from your wreckage? Now leave before I test this Brazilian on your fragile ego." Silence crashed down. Even the jackhammer paused. Daniel looked from Elena's wax pot to Mrs. Kowalski's venomous glare to James's unyielding stance. To me, holding a bottle of persistent bloom, knuckles pale. For a heartbeat, I saw it, the hollow terror in his eyes, the realization that he was truly gone from my story. "Pathetic," he whispered, but the venom had leaked out. He turned, shoulders hunched against the silence. The jackhammer roared back to life, a brutal, final punctuation. That night, we climbed to the loft. James lit candles against the exposed studs. "He came to break you," he said, handing me wine in a mason jar. "He broke nothing," I replied, watching candlelight dance on the pine subfloor. "Because you, Elena, Mrs. K," my throat tightened. "You were my wall. We are your wall," he corrected softly. He unrolled a new sketch panel, 14, The Siege. Daniel's silhouette cracking against an emerald barrier woven from viola roots, basil leaves, and kintsugi nails. Behind the wall, our salon glowed, violet light unshaken. "It's finished," I realized. "The story. From keycard to this." "No." James touched the edge where the wall met blank paper. "The siege is finished. The blooming." He traced a single viola petal drifting beyond the barrier. That's just beginning. We made love slowly on the sleeping bags, no frenzy, only discovery. His mouth charted new territory, the scar below my ribs, hemoport, the callus on my thumb, from grout floats, the hollow of my throat where Daniel's chain once lay. Each touch whispered, "This is yours. This is real." After I traced the artist's callus on his sketching finger. "Stay?" I asked. "Not for the night." "For all the mornings. Try and evict me," he murmured into my hair. We fell asleep to the city's rumble, no longer an assault, but a heartbeat. Our heartbeat. The loft's naked rafters framed constellations of dust and candle smoke. No ghosts, no cracks. Just space, wild, tender, and holy hours, waiting to be filled. The loft glowed. Strings of Edison bulbs crisscrossed the rafters, casting honeyed light over pine floors we'd sanded and sealed ourselves. Hydroponic herbs scenting the air, basil, thyme, lavender mingled with Elena's garlic knots and Mrs. Kowalski's medicinal mojitos. "Root-bound housewarming," the chalkboard sign declared. "No ghosts invited." I adjusted a tray of seedling fabers, violas in terracotta thimbles, as James anchored a floating shelf. His flannel sleeve brushed my bare arm, leaving sawdust and warmth. "Nervous?" he asked, hammering a nail with practiced ease. "Only about Mrs. Rosen's critique of the feng shui. Tell her the vibes are deliberately chaotic," he grinned, catching my waist. Like us. Below, the salon's violet neon bled through floor cracks, a reminder of where we began. Now, laughter floated up the stairs. Lena debating nail art with a shy boy. "Zach, he listens," she'd whispered. Mrs. Rosen inspecting the herb wall. "Jacob would hate it. Perfect." Elena teaching Mrs. Kowalski viral dance moves. "They're here," I breathed. The realization a balm. All of them. Mrs. Kowalski ascended first, leaning heavy on her walker. Sequins danced on her cardigan like captured stars. "Where's the guest of dishonor?" she demanded, thrusting a lumpy gift bag at me. Inside, swaddled in mojito-stained napkins, the rooster lamp. Its cracked eye gleamed gold kintsugi repairs sealing the break. A viola bloomed from its ceramic base, roots coiled around garish feathers. "You salvaged it," I whispered, throat tight. "Danny boy tossed it." "Again," she winked. "Now it's art, like you." James touched the gold seam, the fracture made luminous. "Better than new." We gathered by the window overlooking the city's electric tapestry. Zach held Lena's wild roots painted hand. Mrs. Rosen raised her diamond-less ring. Elena hoisted the mojito pitcher. "To Mia," she crowed. "Who taught us break a nail? Redesign it." Glasses clinked. I stood before them, James's hand a steady anchor at my back. "When I found this space," I began, voice catching, "it was rot and dust." "Like me." Lena nodded fiercely. "But you all brought seeds. And hammers. And truth." I lifted the kintsugi rooster, Viola trembling. "So, this isn't just my sanctuary. It's ours, where cracks aren't flaws, they're where the light gets in," Mrs. Kowalski finished, raising her jar. "To the light," they chorused. James squeezed my hip. "Your turn." As chatter resumed, Lena pulled me aside. "Zach's taking me to junior prom." "Look!" She flashed her nails, wild roots with silver lightning bolts. "Inspired by you." Zach blushed. "She says you're brave." "She's braver," I said. She chose new. Later, refilling pesto bowls, I froze. Daniel's voice, "You'll never be enough," had haunted me for months. Now, silence. Only the hum of bulbs, James's laugh as he fixed Mrs. Rosen's chair, the viola's leaves brushing the rooster's golden scar. James found me at the window. Below, taxis streaked like comets. "Hear that?" he murmured. "The city? Peace," he said. I leaned into him. His heartbeat against my temple was the only compass I needed. "Remember when I asked if we were building ruins?" "You were wrong," he teased. "We built a garden." Mrs. Kowalski shuffled over, thrusting a trowel at us. "Enough mooning, plant the damn thing." We knelt by the window box, soil cool and rich. James cradled the rooster lamp. I nestled its roots into the earth, Viola facing the skyline. "Grow loud," I whispered. "Always," James promised, covering my hand with his. Soil packed under our nails, wild roots, gold and persistent bloom lavender mingling in the half-light. 6 months later, autumn painted the city in fire. I stood at the salon window watching maple leaves spiral onto wet pavement, crimson against concrete, nature's own kintsugi. Inside, the hydroponic wall cascaded with herbs, their scent weaving through the warm drone of nail dryers and Lena's laughter as she demonstrated wild roots designs on Zach's reluctant pinky. Mrs. Kowalski held court at Station the 3, lecturing a new client, a surgeon with scalpel-steady hands now trembling post-divorce. "Look," she commanded, pointing to the tile floor where cornflowers still bloomed through grout cracks despite October frost. "Life's stubborn, be like the weeds." James descended from the loft, smelling of pine varnish and coffee. He slid an arm around my waist, pressing a sketch into my palm, panel 20, the river. My silhouette stood at the East River's edge, not throwing a ring but catching falling leaves that transformed into violas mid-air. At my feet, roots spread, not seeking but anchoring. "The finale?" I asked, leaning into him. "The prologue," he corrected, kissing my temple where Daniel's ghost once whispered, "You're too much." Elena approached, cradling a pot of chrysanthemums, golden, defiant. "Or the windowsill. They bloom when everything else dies." She nodded toward the surgeon, now flexing hands painted. "Courage coral." Her ex took the beach house. She took her dignity. Fair trade. I remembered that hollow-eyed reflection in the salon mirror months ago, how the world had narrowed to hotel keycards and bergamot-soaked suits. Now, my own nails gleamed bare, buffed to resilience, the calluses earned from rebuilding. At closing, Mrs. Kowalski lingered. She placed a chipped teacup on my station inside, soil and a single viola seed. "For your next windowsill," she rasped. "Every sanctuary needs new cracks." "Where are you going?" I asked, gripping her papery hand. "Arizona. My sister's ranch." Cacti need stubborn tenders too. Her eyes, milky yet sharp, held mine. You don't need me anymore, Mia. Got your own army now. She nodded to Lena, teaching Zach to lay her top coat, to James anchoring a wobbling shelf, to Elena singing off-key as she mopped. We'll visit, James promised, handing her a sketchbook filled not with panels but blank pages. Document the cacti rebellions. She cackled, tucking it into her walker basket. Save me a chair. I'll want rebellious red for Christmas. Alone in the loft that night, rain whispered against the windows we'd installed together. James stirred pesto on our salvaged stove while I repotted Mrs. Kowalski's seed into the teacup. The silence between us wasn't absence, it was fullness. Remember the rooster lamp? I asked, touching the viola now thriving in its base by the window. How could I forget? He slid pasta onto mismatched plates. Its squawk was legendary. It never squawked. Metaphorically. He grinned, stealing a basil leaf from the hydroponic wall. Like your ex's voice in your head. Gone quiet, hasn't it? I listened. Not to memory, but to the rain, the sizzle of garlic, the hum of the neon sign below staining our ceiling violet. I forgot to listen for it, I realized. He brought our plates to the floor, our preferred table. We ate cross-legged, knees touching. No grand declarations. Just pesto on his lip. My thumb wiping it away. The ordinary sacrament of after. Lena asked me to do her wedding nails, I said later, washing dishes while he dried. Next spring. Wild roots with silver bolts, and cornflowers pressed in resin. He turned me, soapy hands framing my face. And us? When do we? Grow up, I teased, quoting his loft blueprint. Grow older, he corrected, serious now. Together. Outside, the city glittered, 1,000 fractured lights mending into something whole. I thought of Daniel's ring buried in the foundation below us, of the seeds Mrs. Kowalski left in my care, of the viola stretching toward streetlights. Not perfect, not unbroken, but alive. We already are, I said. James sketched while I watered seedlings. Panel N, the cup. A chipped teacup overflowing not with soil, but with river water where maple leaves and violas floated. From its rim, roots spilled not anchoring, but spreading. Infinite prologues, I murmured. Infinite sanctuaries, he agreed. I turned off the neon sign, plunging the salon into shadow, but our loft glowed, Edison bulbs reflecting in rain-slicked windows, holding the dark at bay. Ready? James asked, hand outstretched. I took it. Not because I needed steadying, but because I wanted to feel his calluses against mine, 2 sets of wild roots tangled and sure. We left the light on,